Greetings, people of God. I hope this word of encouragement today finds you being strengthened by the love of God and a God you into the kind of faith the author of the book of Hebrews describes for us as a faith that is confident, certain of things not seen, of knowing that the righteousness, love, goodness, and ultimate salvation of God is coming to expression, will come to expression, and ultimately will renew the entire heavens and earth, and that you and I are part of that. And that kind of confidence and hope for them was meant to take place in the middle of tremendous trial, opposition, um, persecution, their world being turned upside down. And he's speaking those words of that kind of faith in the middle of this kind of tremendous difficulty. I hope that encourages you. And I hope that you can look at the things that are going on in the world today, the protests that are going on, the COVID, and all of the effects related to that virus, and know that these are not signs that um, things are about to collapse completely. Um, they are signs that the right kind of changes are going to come, that God often brings this kind of upheaval as the means of ushering in righteousness and of bringing um, new faith to people who are without the Lord and a renewed faith to those in the church. It is how God refines and leads his people into deeper paths of righteousness. So I hope you are not discouraged by these events, but are finding strength in knowing that the harder the events are, the more we are certain the Lord is doing something on a very, very deep level to change things. And in that light, I wanted to read to you this letter that I received, and many of us who are connected to Randy Nabors received this letter from him. It's a monthly letter that he sends out to New City type churches across the country. And I found his words to be extremely encouraging today, and I just want to pass them on to you. So here's what he says. He says, I have called on our pastors to give their people fuel for the journey. What I mean is this, that they will so preach the gospel and the hope that we have in the love of Christ that we will be able to endure suffering for the long haul. Our people need to be resilient, especially in the face of racism and injustice. So many say, I feel tired or I'm exhausted. Those are real emotions in the face of racism and injustice. There's plenty of good reason to feel that way. I do believe that if that is our constant or only response, each time we see horror on social media, we ain't going to make it. George Floyd, and this is a very sad statement to make, is not going to be the last black man killed by a white policeman with callous disregard for his life. There are going to be a lot of next times. What? Why? Because Jesus has not come back yet, and humans are totally depraved, and racism won't end completely until Christ brings in a new heaven and a new earth. This does not mean things can't or won't get better. We must work for that. We should, and we can make an impact. We can temporarily and locally bring transformation, but ultimate and total transformation around these issues awaits the return of Christ. And then he asks a question, has anything changed, really? I'm concerned for the lack of perspective we have during these times, though understandable. Yet, that lack of perspective robs people of hope, and we all need hope to get through these days. Some of that is the result of instant and intense trauma due to social media, which brings national focus to every event. As far as justice and race in this country, has anything changed? Yes, much has changed. To deny it is to deny the courage and blood of those who stood, fought, and died for change. Abolitionists, colored troops in the Union Army, founders of the HBCUs, and reconstructionists, all who exposed and resisted lynching, the civil rights workers and movement, the integrators, the people who stood up and sat down at lunch counters, the freedom riders, those who were assassinated and killed during that era, including Dr. King. These are not the times of slavery. This is not the time of Jim Crow. Black people have the vote. Black people can make money. Black people achieve, have become president. Yet racism is perpetuated. So no matter the progress, for some people, not only does it not matter that by constitutional mandate, Black people are citizens fully equal in rights, they are still seen as less than human, less than equal. And if these racists had their choice, would bring back complete white racial domination. This is what an officer's knee on a Black man's neck signals. Because so much has changed, it is terribly frustrating that progress seems so hard and still distant. Disparity in income, home ownership, healthcare, infant death, COVID-19 death rates, failing public schools, Black men seen as a threat and dangerous, etc. Racists use social Darwinism to explain disparity. That is, that disparity is a result of Black people being inherently inferior, instead of seeing it as a result of racist policy decision-making over the decades. And of course, the treatment of Black folks by some, and certainly not all, police officers and the criminal justice system. So the fight is not over, and we must not relinquish the hope of victory. Fighting racism is like fighting sin, of course, because it is sin. It is never over. Each changed heart, each changed policy, each changed law is reason for joy. But if we're not careful, sets us up for shock for the next murder, the next threat, the next dehumanization. There will always be those who lose hope and retreat or pick up a gun. We are called to be saints, light in the midst of darkness, salt in the midst of decay. In this world we will have trouble, Jesus said. But then he said, take heart, I have overcome the world. Stop running away. Don't be a coward. No one promised you would get out of here alive. To live is Christ. To die is gain. Amen, people of God. May you be strengthened and encouraged by these words.